Hello and welcome along once again to another edition of the Irish Rally Podcast, which of course is in association with FAC, the simply automatic choice for automation equipment. And for more, you can check out nal.ie/products as always. And we thank them for their kind support. They've been with us for some time. And just to mention, if you do want to get in touch with us regarding sponsorships or anything like that, you can email us irishrallypodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget on social media, we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Irish Rally Pod. Well, plenty coming up on the programme today. We are going to be joined by Sean Moriarty of Kerry Motorsport News. He's going to be telling us all about the fantastic news of Craig Breen and Paul Nagle finally getting that coveted drive. We're going to catch up on all things, what's happening, I suppose, on the island here as well. And Donegal Harvest Rally last weekend. We'll catch up with a very familiar voice and familiar face who is also heavily involved in that rally. And he'll be telling us all about the class winners and trials and tribulations of how the event went. We'll get a flavour of that too. So yeah, let's kick it off. Now on the Irish Rally Podcast, we turn our attention to some big news on the world rally scene. And it's, I suppose, no secret that this was probably going to happen. It was just a case of when. And one of the first people to break the news about Craig Breen and Paul Nagle getting a full drive for the next couple of years at M Sport was Mr. Sean Moriarty. Sean, great to have you on. How's things?
Very good, Kevin. Nice to be on and nice to be sharing some good news from the Kingdom of Kerry. As you say, we probably knew an awful lot about it, but we had to bide our time and keep it stum, as they say, until the fantastic news broke this morning around 7:40 a.m.
Well, Kerry Motorsport News were absolutely on it like a car bonnet this morning. And obviously you had a little bit of a tip-off, but you were sworn to secrecy, I bet.
Well, it turned out we never give away the Kerry secrets, you know. We can't do that. It's just, no, it's fantastic for the two boys. They thoroughly deserve it. They're coming off the back of an outstanding performance in Finland last weekend, third overall. Their previous result, second in Belgium, their third in Estonia, it was all pointing towards a full-time seat. But which one of the three manufacturers were they going to go with? Doesn't really matter. Here they are, 13 rounds, 2 full seasons. These guys deserve it. Let's all get behind them, fly the flag for them.
Absolutely. I mean, they couldn't have done much more to put themselves in that position anyway. We're saying it the whole time here on the podcast, and it's great to see that it's finally over the line now.
Well, I think one of the important things that were coming in might have been overlooked this morning. The news, was all going forward and looking towards their future with M Sport. But looking back in their time with Hyundai, Mr. Adamo was very full of praise of their efforts over the last 3 partial seasons and how they were very much team players. They played a huge part in the team. They did the various other European Championship. The Irish Tarmac Championship course was finished out with Hyundai. The European Championship rounds, the Italian Championship rounds. They're a big part of the kind of Hyundai family, if you like. And Adamo did say this morning that they were very much team players there, and everybody parted on good terms, and that's very important going forward, because you know yourself that you look at any one of the top guys. Ozier's been with Citroen, he's been with Ford, he's been with Volkswagen, so everybody's happy and move on and celebrate the good times that are coming.
Was there a thought process at any stage, everyone was kind of talking about M Sport, was there any thought process that Hyundai would have changed their policy and went with 3 full-time drivers rather than 1 rotational and 2 kind of full-time?
I suppose you'd have to ask Mr. Adamo that. He's his own reasons for putting part-time drivers like Craig and Danny Sordo this year, next year Sordo and Oliver Solberg.
Yeah,
he's got his reasons for that. I don't know. You don't see the other teams doing it, and is it paying off? Toyota leading the way, so is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. That's for the big boss in Hyundai to answer, really. If you ever get him on the Rally Podcast sometime, he might tell you the secret of that one.
Fat chance of that, I'd say, but sure, look, we'll keep plugging away on. Yeah, but that's something you would be thinking to yourself, that maybe, geez, this guy's at their, finished on the podium the last 3. Do I change policy? Do I try keep him? That's not really something that's been spoke about. It's just been when are M Sport going to sign the 2 lads? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was kind of spoken about, but it was never entertained and never went further. Craig Breen must have been very valuable to the Hyundai higher echelons, we call it, on Sunday night when he was driving that car off the podium, and Sunday evening in the Vascola. He must have been very much high in the thoughts of, we'll say not so much Hyundai Motorsport people, but the Korean officials. But look, the World Championship have funny ways of working, and Paul and Craig, as sure they're looking forward to getting stuck into driving the Puma, and as I say, everybody left in good terms. So it just couldn't be better. Like it just couldn't be better.
The videos are very entertaining, even in terms of the Puma being launched a couple of months back with the, do you know what I mean? Like the whole thing of going up with the milk bottle and then in rally mode and all. I thought that was great. And then equally this morning, the way they kind of announced it, I thought was pretty cool as well with the tea and the whole lot. Like it was just so
Yeah,
Craig, wasn't
well,
it?
it's so Craig. Have you ever seen Craig Breen in a rally service park without a packet of Barry's tea hanging off him? So it kind of fitted into that, and yeah, well done this morning to M Sport. I had my doubts it was done this morning, but we won't go into that. It was obviously a pre-record from sometime in the past, but very well played. Nice bit of kind of acting drama. Yeah, very funny, very entertaining. Who's the new boy? He's ready to go. And the last scene in that, of course, was applying their names in the Irish tricolour to the side windows of a brand new Ford Puma. And they're getting ready for a few tests in Spain later this year. And what is it, 3 months to Monte Carlo? Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And like in terms of the car itself, I mean, it seems awesome. And Malcolm Wilson is quite confident that this is going to be a big piece of machinery over the next couple of years. That it's going to, drive their prospects. And obviously, the right man is there to drive it on for them. Like,
I suppose if you look back to the dawn of the new World Rally car era that's kind of coming to a close with just Spain and Italy left to run, and Finland was the last gravel round to run for the World Rally cars. But Ford were kind of the quickest out of the blocks. I know they don't have the same support, M Sport for as a privateer team, don't have the same financial support as the manufacturer back teams. But they were quickest out of the blocks. They got a world championship with Ogier. Next thing, the Japanese and the Koreans started firing money at their projects, and the lads in Cumbria kind of fell back the ranks a bit. I think M Sport, with a little backing from the Ford in the US and the technology background, you will see that Ford has the huge potential to be the strongest car next season and come out May the season after when the big guys start firing money into the projects. That's kind of my opinion on it. Looking at the history when they came in 17 with Ogier, etc.
and looking at the weekend, obviously you're over in Finland. Can you give us a flavour of what that's like? Because we've all heard stories about it, but you've been there and you've been there most recently, as in last weekend. So, what's the whole process of the rally like? I believe it's amazing.
It's a fantastic. It was my first ever trip to Rally Finland. Now I've been to something like 30 or 40 rounds of the World Rally Championship. Poland is very fast. Sweden on the snow and ice is very fast. But everyone told me that there's nothing faster than Finland. And I've been in Poland. I've seen the speed. There's no way. It's absolutely incredible. And the change of direction out of very fast right hand corner and the cars completely broadside, flicks around and gone off in another absolute opposite direction. The jumps. I mean, Finland is famous for the jumps. Uh, it's very hard to explain unless you're there. The atmosphere in the forest, the genuine fans. I think there was kind of an absence of international fans this year. Yes, there was a good few Irish boys over there, but the Finnish are so knowledgeable about the sport, and it is the home of rallying. And overall, it's a fantastic package. I mean, it has to be on the bucket list. It has to be if you're going to go to one World Rally in your life, you've got to go to Finland. And I thank all the boys down here in Kerry that have encouraged me over the years. You got to go, and took their advice. It's fantastic. It's just amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Was there much of a crew, you, Sean, or did you just spell on yourself? Or what was the crack?
No, there was myself and three Cork lads, which you believe, Conor O'Neill from West Cork, Padraig and Michael O'Donovan from East Cork, seasoned rally campaigners. These boys. Conor is a huge fan of Rally Finland. I think this was something like his 17th or 18th trip, and even simple little things when the traffic got backed up coming in and out of stages, he knew a little back road, a little side road that would just get you up another 30, 40 cars out of the traffic jam. All that added to the experience, of course. The Padraig, especially good navigator, good man on the maps, and Conor with his local knowledge of the Vascally area added to the experience because we probably saw a little bit more than what people inevitably get stuck in traffic. But these guys' experience of being out there for, as I think was Conor 17 to 18 time at Rally Finland, can't be that experience. But yeah, great crack, great fun, great people, great company. And that's kind of sums up a nice trip away.
Is this the same Connor that used to have his videos featured quite regularly on RPM?
That's the very man, yeah, that's the very man, and he was kind of my unofficial videographer for the weekend. He was taking the videos, and I was sharing them via the Kerry Motorsport News Facebook and website. So that's the very man. So that's kind of probably why we had the quality videos, and the fact that his experience again in that line of business shone through in the hits I was getting over the weekend. So win-win for everybody. And thanks very much, Conor. Good job.
And come here, wasn't there great videos overall? There's one 20-minute video that I saw shared by several people, and just to give a little flavour of what was going on in terms of how committed these guys were. I never saw the beatings of it, to be honest, and to see that up close and personal must have been unreal.
Yeah, I think you never see the likes of this anywhere in the world. The speed is just the speed is in one sense frightening, in another sense highly spectacular, highly exhilarating, exciting to be standing at the side of the road. Poland is another very very fast rally, but if you recall, there maybe in the last couple of years they kind of lost their world championship status to crowd misbehaving, etc. And yeah, but Poland is incredibly fast, and you can add another 10% to Finland, and that's kind of mind blowing stuff. I think there was two incidents in motorsport that took my breath away this year. One of them was a road race up in Armagh, County Antrim, when Michael Dunlop took on Derek Shields at about 150 miles an hour, shoulder to shoulder down a narrow bumper lane. And then my first experience of looking at World Rally cars on the forest roads of Finland was actually took your breath away. They say motorsport takes your breath away, but there were the two incidents this year that happened.
I suppose you have to give credit to Elfyn Evans as well, because he spoke before about maybe the reluctance to push on that sort of terrain, and he really did. In fairness, he came out with the blocks on Saturday morning, and like he wasn't going to be better really from that point on.
No, I think he made his statement on Friday night. Don't forget he comes from a road rallying background in Wales, and as does his navigator Scotty Martin from up around Cumbria, and they'd have kind of
Who would have sat with Craig before, obviously, as
would
well.
have sat with Craig before, and both Craig and Scotty did the Circuit Kerry here in 2014 with the Peugeot 208 T16, the first tarmac rally in Europe a week before the Circuit of Ireland. So Scotty's well known in this part of the world as well. Like, so he's spent a few days here and got to know members of the local motor club. But they learned their trade in the road rallies of England and Wales, and it was really the performance on the dark stage on Friday night that kind of catapulted him from roughly fifth overall right into contention. And everyone was watching Rovan Pera, everyone was watching Lappy, everyone was watching Breen to an extent, but he came from nowhere Friday night in the dark and set himself up rightly. That's in my personal opinion where that rally was won and lost, and where he got this is it. This is where he made his attack. This is where he made himself known. Worked away all day Saturday, got the job done, and steady away to bring her home Sunday. That's kind of been the tradition in most rallies in recent years. But no, go back to that stage in the dark Friday night. That's where the rally was won and lost.
Yeah, there's a great clip of that somewhere as well, actually, that people should go and check out. But Ypres then in comparison, like that's supposed to be a special event too in its own right, and yet it was the first time I think it ran as WRC event this year. And you were lucky enough. You kind of got into it. Did you get end of a bib or something to game with the boys after? It was yourself, Craig, and Paul, I think, wasn't there in a photo?
I'm not sure how I got in there, and I don't think that's suitable for a live podcast. You don't know who might be listening to it, but I know it's only a bit of crack. But it was I got in there. Yeah, fair enough. I had the press pass, but I didn't have the official bib. But just to carry away, I knew everyone. I saluted everybody. How's it going? I haven't time to talk to you now. I'll talk to you on the way out now. Nice to see you. Thanks for your work. That's the way it works. In we go. But Ypres fantastic. It's an outstanding rally. I've been there several times in the past. As well as this year now was its first round in the World Championship. I was there 2 years ago when Craig and Paul won it in the R5 Volkswagen Polo. One of the beauties about Ypres, I think, is I know COVID times this year kind of changes slightly, but the whole rally is based in the town centre. They bring the rally, the service park is in the town square, the bars and the cafes leading onto the town square in rally mode for the whole rally. And there's an awful lot of learning you could do in Irish rallying to bring the events more into the town centre. I know it's difficult these days, you're talking in COVID times and you're trying to keep the crowd separated, but we'll come out of that in time. And rather than be isolated in some nondescript industrial estate at the edge of town, why not bring it into the heart of town and bring it to the people, bring it to the tourists, bring it to the people that are not interested. Put them in front of them. Don't hide it away from them. I think you learn a lot from what goes on in Belgium overall, but Ypres particularly.
And they were always kind of forward thinking, even going back 25 years ago from looking at, remember RPM did their show there, which featured on Motorsport Ireland's page a couple of months back. And, they always seem to be that little step ahead. And they do charge, I think, as well, don't they? There's different ways of making a few bob in, like.
They do charge, and that's probably another conversation that needs to be had in Irish rallying. we had this big debate at the start of the summer that people were concerned about the rising cost of entry fees. There's no point in repeating that, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. And we got it back to some sort of an acceptable level. But it's an acceptable level to the competitor that's paying 700 or 800 quid. Still a lot of money. But if you were to look at any club budget, they're probably only breaking even, and they can't afford to just one mistake in this rally, like a flat and fancy wall on the stage or whatever, and that puts that rally into loss. But who's paying? You don't ask Colin de Gooch Cooper when he's going into Croke Park to pay more. You charge the spectators to pay more, and we're going to have to get into the situation where maybe slowly catching a monkey. We're going to have to start with a fiver into the service park. And once you get into the habit of paying the fiver into the service park, you'll get into the habit of paying the tenner to go into see the stage. The road racing in Northern Ireland, the motorcycle road races, they do it. They do it very, very simply. But I accept it's only a 2 mile course. But someone has to pay for this, lads. And the people that are getting the entertainment are the spectators. And we got to start having the conversation. And when the conversation gets more and more popular, etc., we got to start implementing it.
And of
The
course,
driver, the driver and the club can't pay all the time.
And we did see spectators in their droves. So with the Harvest Rally over the weekend, you know what I mean? Obviously, it was your focus was very much in Finland, but you must have one eye on what was happening up at the Harvest as well.
I have, of course, sir. I've kind of got a small bit of Donegal blood in me, so I kind of have a fair idea what's going on up there. Great to see Irish national rallying back. It was the first kind of, we'll say, national rally after a very successful Cork 22 weeks prior. And again, you talk about spectators, they're out in their droves in Cork as well. And back to the two guys I travelled with, they're from kind of the East Cork area where the rally passed through. One of them was competing in the 20 and the other was kind of helping out in the service park. But they spoke about how the locality there welcomed the rally back, wanted it back. It was time to move on from the difficult times you're in. I'm sure the rally got the same welcome in Donegal. Of course, they did the Homer rallying in Ireland. It's all positive what's going on in the background. And what else is happening now? We're looking forward now to probably a great event down your side of the country in Wexford, and two more events over here. Kerry Winter Rally, the Banna Beach Rally, is better known as, in November 7th, and 2 weeks after that, the Killarney Historic. And we run great rallies in this country. We've great drivers, we've great action. But as I said a minute ago, someone has to pay for it. It can't be the driver and it can't be the club.
It's good to see Banna back because a couple of years, well, obviously one of them is COVID, but it did disappear for a year or two anyway, didn't it? Due to different reasons, like you were saying.
Different reasons are kind of external and internal reasons within the club. There's no point in discussing them here. The plan was to give the rally two years break. Some of it was to give some of the hardworking volunteers in the club a break from the hassle of running a rally in April. Maybe wrapping up the Circuit of Kerry in May, starting again in June for Banna. So there's an element of that to give the club members a break, give the road closing orders a break in North Kerry. And of course, there was a time when we were kind of facing difficult insurance, and MI asked for a couple of clubs to take their events off the calendar to bring the insurance down. So kind of combination of all them put a stop to Banna for 2 years. It should have been back in the calendar last year. We all know what happened. Back with a bang this year. Not sure exactly the numbers of entries, but I'm hearing from the club secretary there's quite a strong entry in already. It's only open 4 or 5 days. It's only open on Saturday. Traditional kind of clubman rally in the season. Great rally, and it's great to see it back.
And a bit of news regarding Rally the Lakes next year as well, which you broke, I think, on Kerry Motorsport News in the last week or two.
I won't take the credit for that one, but I think it was a nice one to see that. Darren McCormick's been appointed to the clerk of the course. If that's what you're hinting at, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it was. Unless there's other stuff you want to tell us, don't be afraid.
I can't keep up with my website myself half the time. There's so much stuff going on in it. But no, Darren takes over from Dermot. Dermot ran a very good 40th anniversary event in 2019, and Darren comes into the club with experience of running the Killarney Historic. Interesting kind of family story there. He's the second generation clerk of the course in the Killarney club. His father Geary ran the Historics, and his father Geary ran the Rally to Lake. So to run an international rally, I believe he's the first father-son combination in the country. Of course, his mother Maureen was one of the first people in the country to be stage commander, a female stage commander on Moll's Gap, and his sister Tanya's heavily involved in the club, and both his brothers involved in the club. So it's kind of family affair for the McCormicks. We wish them the best of luck.
Good stuff. Well, look, just before we finish up, can we bring it back to Craig and Paul once more? And I mean, uh, you had a very good timeline, I think, up on the website when I was looking at it this morning of what they've done in terms of earning this, like what the last few years have been like. So, can you give us a little flavour of that before we finish up and what we can expect over the next 2 years and where you see the lads going and what they can achieve potentially?
Um, I think their CV with Hyundai speaks for itself, and I kind of, especially the most recent in recent times, back-to-back podiums, 3 rallies in a row. The team players. Craig's a very intelligent driver. He's also very knowledgeable technically and mechanically. So he'll get a good understanding of the new car very quickly. Um, uh, Paul will hit 100 WRC starts sometime around this time next year. I think it's the traditional date for Rally Finland, or we'll say the traditional date for Rally Germany, in around kind of mid to late August or early September. 100 WRC starts. That is the most experienced man on the planet at the minute. Like so, you talk about looking back and past experience. They're going to bring all that into Monte Carlo in January, and that's a huge challenge, difficult rally. But I stand corrected on this, but I believe that Paul scored his first podium in Monte Carlo. I have to double check that, but I believe his first podium in the World Rally Championship was in around 2006, 2007. Certainly, his first top 10 result was in that time with Garrett McHale. Was it a podium? I'd have to double check it. But see the knowledge they're bringing. That's the key. Like the knowledge, the experience, and that was the 2% that was probably missing in Finland last week. That's where I think the key advantage is going to be in the next 24 months.
Yeah, because didn't Garrett finish in the top 10? Was it in Monte Carlo and then top six in Mexico? Was he sixth in Mexico? I don't know.
Maybe
Was Paul?
I'm getting old now, Kevin, and my brain isn't as
Ah, you're not a
good
million miles off.
in recalling. So we'll say it was certainly Paul's first top 10 finish in a WRC event. So like finish top 10 in Monte Carlo is fairly that's serious stuff.
I go back. How long ago is it when himself and Chris went into the car park and got back on track? Just about when to take a time to take the win.
Was it 17? It was 18, I guess. Was it Mexico in 2018?
Yeah,
Second year of the World Rally Cars. Um, yeah, that was one of the and a nation holds its breath, and you can just imagine it
a
was it
Kerry
George
man anyway hold his breath and a few
and
more along with him. Yeah,
Waterford and Kilkenny were holding their breath too.
yeah.
And sorry, at the time it was Tyrone, of course. Yeah, yes, but what I'm saying is, if you go back, there's an old RTE soccer commentator, George Hamilton, and he did it was a time when Ireland were about to qualify for a World Cup quarter final, and one of
Against
the soccer
Romania.
players stepped up to take a penalty shot. If the goal went in, they were going to the quarterfinals, and if it didn't, they were going home. And he used the phrase "a nation holds its breath." I think that applied that day in Mexico as well. A nation holds its breath as this car landed in the field. It drove around in a circle, the opposite direction, if you recall, and got wedged up in a few parked cars. And another couple of seconds there, and trying to reverse a World Rally car out of a tight spot, and that was all over. Very
Game
lucky men.
over.
Very,
Yeah,
very lucky. Very lucky
and
men.
actually a couple of things for if we finish up. Sorry, I said last question I think, but we have a couple of more. Just in terms of, I think you got a nice photo of um. You got Chris Patterson and you got Aaron Johnson as well, didn't you? So, like, it'd be remiss of us not to mention the fact that we have a couple of lads kind of on the global scene.
Absolutely, that's a unique photograph. You'll probably never again see that photograph. Aaron was in his first trip with Toyota. Chris has been around. Now he's a long old campaigner, serious navigator, but spent this season with Gus Greensmith in Ford and Paul with Hyundai. So now you have 3 manufacturers, 3 Irish co-drivers in a manufacturer level. Remember that. Remember that Paul and Craig are finished for the season, so we won't see that situation ever again. And then when you look into next season, I don't know what Chris's plans are, but Paul has moved to M Sport, so therefore it's not going to be in the Hyundai camp. Therefore, you'll probably never again have that photograph. It happened once, and it happened. That's it. And to be standing out at Vascular City Hall last Thursday evening, about this time last Thursday evening actually, and to meet them 3 boys and just lads, you got to stand outside the city hall and take this photograph. Very unique, very proud for the country. Like it's just fantastic to see that. Like that, we've 3 drivers, sorry, 3 co-drivers, 3 manufacturers, and best of luck to them boys, whatever their plans are for next year, but never again to be seen. Never, ever again to be seen.
Yeah, great to capture that. So you're going to be interrailing for the next 2 years anyway, that's what you're telling us.
I'm looking for a way to, I don't know how we're going to figure this out, like, but we'll win the lotto. Did I hear Peter Keane won the lotto down here today? So maybe I might win the Kerry Motor Club lotto or something and cover. Or if there's anyone out there that wants to pay for a trip to Monte Carlo, my passport is ready and I'm good to go. The bags are packed. It's just tell me what airport, I'll be there in time.
Just don't tell me 3 other lads going with you to take photos and videos.
That never bothered us when we were kind of flagging our way in for a few free fishing tips at the various hospitality units around the world. So that's okay. It was just once we get a seat in the plane, we get the other 2 boys on. All right, no problem.
Good stuff. Listen, Sean, it's been a pleasure having you on, and keep up the good work with Kerry Motorsport News, and we'll chat to you again soon. Thanks for coming on the Irish Rally Pod. All right.
Good man, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Now on the Irish Rally Podcast, we're joined by a photographer, a podcaster, and in my case, a tour guide all in one. It is Mr. Kevin Lendenning, and he is, of course, the PRO of Donegal Harvest Rally and the Donegal International Rally as well. Kev, welcome on the Irish Rally Podcast. Great to chat to you again.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Good to chat again.
There's no crunching gears this time in literal sense. Last time I was with you, you brought me on the tour, and I didn't see much of the road.
Well, we tried not to touch the road too much,
Yeah. It's nice to see you parked up safe and well. Anyway, how's things? You keeping well?
Keeping the very best, thank God. Now, yeah. So
good stuff. Have to say, I enjoyed Daniel McKenna's piece there over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure you got a great reaction.
It was epic, I have to say. Yeah, it was mind blowing. Daniel, I thought, was very quiet. He thought he hadn't much to say. Once hit the record button, boom, sit back and enjoy. So what a story. Like the guy has such a natural talent behind the wheel, and I think if he ever wanted to have a natural talent in front of a camera as well. So.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I felt you've done a lot of great work over the last couple of years. I think it was up there with your best. It probably was the best nearly. And James Cullen now and Nesbitt and all them boys will kill me for saying it, and a few more. But like, out of all of them, I just thought it was a remarkable story. Like,
very natural story, very honest story. Like I think it just for somebody that come on with little expectation, his story is fantastic. The figures for it are through the roof compared to all the others too. So. Absolutely delighted. Daniel's such a lovely lad as well.
Yep, and obviously he was back out over the weekend. How did that go for him?
Yeah, he got on okay. Yeah, he said he was going to take it handy, make sure he got to the finish. Mission accomplished. A lot of development in the car. There's a lot of new bits and pieces on the car, so I would say it's going to just take time just to get everything working 110%. But no doubt when he does, he'll set the stages alight like he always does.
So talk to us about the event then in general, Kev, because it was basically an international entry for what mini stage rally. So I mean, it was incredible, and to see some of the clips from, like, say, Flying Finn and Madford Tower and all those guys, the crowds were unbelievable.
Oh, here, absolutely bonkers. Our hands were kind of tied with the organising of the event, that we weren't allowed to produce maps and one thing and another. So the crowds, they flocked in, they found their way to the stages by hell or high water. It was unbelievable. Competitors took it fully on board. Like, started at 140 cars basically. I think there was maybe 136, 138, whatever it was. But like the quality as well as the quantity, as you said there, like an international, like that top 10 wouldn't have looked out of place in June. Never mind, in the Harvest Rally. So fantastic. So.
Definitely, yeah. And I suppose we got drama right from the get-go, because everyone was saying, how's Declan Boyle going to get on? A couple of years or whatever since he was behind the wheel of a car, and then he's fast on the first stage, I think, by 3 seconds. So it was incredible drama from the get-go.
It really was, and like, I'm sure everybody has seen Killian's interview. Like, I think even Declan was shocked by it too. Just like the man, like, can step into a car. Yeah, he's a world car compared to the other guys in the R5s, but like the last time he stepped out of a car, like, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but it wasn't in pretty shape.
No,
so
it wasn't.
To step back in again and do that in the first stage, mind blowing, really is. So, and against some very top quality drivers who have quite a bit of seat time this year as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, and that was the thing. Your Murray Evanses, your Callan Devine, who won the event, Sam Moffat, all them guys would have got a bit of time behind the wheel. So I mean, that makes the story even more stand out, as the fella said. But during the course of the day in general, there was great hustles all across, and even coming up to the last stage, a nice little. Callum had a bit of work to do. Like, it wasn't straightforward.
Oh, definitely that last stage. Like Declan had been fastest on him the previous run, 4 seconds, I think, quicker on the previous run, and he was 3.8 behind. And like we went to the end of the last stage, and Callum and Brian come off the end of the last stage, and they were like buzzing. You could just see it in them. They were just so up for it. They had given everything. And on the door handles, he said he'd been in the hedge a couple of times, but like I think it was 20 seconds quicker than he had been in the previous run. And I would say he would admit himself, if Declan was quicker than that, he deserved it. It was such an electric buzz, I suppose, was just that end of that last stage, just waiting times come in, because they had, was it 6 cars before Declan's time come in, and it was the tension was just building and building and building, and then boom, they'd got it, and like Declan was one of the first guys over there to congratulate him. So it just shows you how good Irish motorsport is, the way they all went round shaking hands, giving each other high fives, whatever. It's just, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, to be back at all is great. I mean, we're after spending the last couple of years talking about when will it be back? Is it going to be back? What sort of a setup is it going to be when it is back? And then we've had a couple of great events over the last couple of weeks, thankfully.
Oh yeah, like I was kind of in the frame of mind maybe about August or so. I'm like, do we need rallying back this year? Or do we not? But once we're out and done a couple of events, how did we ever do without it? It's like a drug.
Definitely, 100%. And I mean, just looking down through it, then, for you, what were the standout stories from the day before we do get into the class winners?
Standout stories, I suppose. Declan Boyle's, the way he just settled back in again. The modified Kevin Eves hadn't sat in the car for 2 years, electric, and I just love Kevin's attitude to rallying. Just go in and go hard or go home, basically. And I just love just the way he talks about rallying, the way he approaches his rallying. He just knows it's a bit of crack, a bit of fun, but he wants to go fast too at the same time. The other thing, I suppose, it has to be mentioned is the residents on the stages, right from the shakedown, the 2 stages. I know just from being behind the scenes a wee bit, the warm welcome at that event and the goodwill, them residents in a difficult time welcome the organisers. It's not everybody would want people coming and stand in their gardens with everything going on at the moment, but right from the get-go, couldn't do enough. What do we need to happen here? Sponsors again, the Abbey Hotel was the association sponsor. Then you had, we had every stage sponsored, 6 sponsors, service park, trailer park, all them things. Like businesses, it's not easy at the moment to dig deep and find that few quid, but each and every one of them fully on board. Just, great to see that, that generosity of spirit and generosity of pocket as well, so I have to say that for me, that to me is the real standout, the event itself and the welcome it got by the people of South Donegal.
Yeah, no, fantastic indeed. And just a word on Kevin Eves. I mean, going back to 2017, he had that horror crash on Knockalla, that infamous corner, Will Hare's corner, and that wasn't nice. We heard all kinds of things about that. But how quickly he was back in the car again and back on the pace again, I think is the measure of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, aye. Like like we forget that Kevin Eves a few years ago was Billy Coleman nominated. He's just a natural driver. He's one of the old school, roll up your sleeves, arms, elbows out and go, and I think he's a joy to watch, and his attitude as well, go back to it again. He just devil may care, go hard, and that's, I think other competitors, some take it a wee bit too serious. Kevin's more of the opinion, it's a day's crack, just go out there and enjoy it, so.
Yeah, and he's very spectacular in punching in stage times as well, which people can't get their head around. They're always saying if he keeps it a little bit neater, he'll be better again. But he's able to do it while being spectacular, which is even better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and would it be as enjoyable if you was, keeping it straight? Probably not.
Yeah, there's a Carlo connection to the car as well, so that makes it even nicer from our point of view here.
Yes, true. You're not going
Keeping
to
the
try
whole
and
thing
claim
alive.
them now, are you?
I know. There's enough of what do you call it? Claims handed down here about different things, and we won't mention claims in motorsport in general. But anyway,
No.
that's where we're at, boss. So class winners, then. Do you want to run down through them?
Yeah, Class 1. Class winners, we started off then at Class 1 with Stephen Gallagher and Niall Gibson in the Civic. Class 2, Jodie McManus and Des Sherlock in their Fiesta R2. Class 3, Adrian Cannon and Bernard Gallagher in their Civic. Class 4, Group N winners were Michael Boyle and Dermot McCafferty in their Mitsubishi Evo 9. Class 5, the top guys obviously forfeited the class award, so it went to Kath McCourt and Liam Moynihan. Class 7, the World Car was Seamus Leonard and John McCafferty. Class 9, making the trip up to Donegal was Dennis Nagle and Donna Crowley in the Micra. Class 10, Eamon and Brian Rudden in the Nova. Class 11F, Shane Dillon in the Civic. Class 11R, Seamus Conley and Gary McCrudden in their very famous twin cam, my apologies. Class 12, James Cassidy and Donald Lennon in their Escort. Class 13, Chris O'Callaghan and Cian Trainer, standout performance there as well. Have to tip your hat to those guys as well. Class 14, the aforementioned Kevin Eves and Chris Melly and the twin cam. Class 15, Andy Heakin and Porrick Keeney in their Subaru. Class 20, Michael Carabin and Dara Kelly. Again, have to tip your hat to them two guys as well. Probably the 4-wheel drive, damp conditions probably suited them, but still fantastic run. Historic winners then Brian Crawford and Finnegan Hannigan, and then the juniors Ryan McHugh and Dylan Donoghue.
Good stuff. And look, as we said, that's always the concept of the podcast there, is to go through all the class winners, and there's plenty of stories in them as well, as always. Some of the best stories are actually from down through the classes. But then in overall context, so Sam Moffat third, Declan Boyle second, Callum Devine first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great to be back, great to have it back. I'm sure while you were there, you're obviously keeping an eye on what's happening over in Finland too, and we had a larger Irish contingent there, and we've had lots of big news drop in the last couple of days. Obviously, we spoke to Sean Moriarty a little bit earlier on the podcast here. A hive of positivity and a great event, and that picture that Sean kind of shared or whatever of Aaron Johnson, Chris Patterson, and Paul Nagle. I mean, that was fantastic, and he said that's a photo we won't ever see again, probably because the manufacturer's not. So great, wasn't it overall?
Oh, here, that's I keeping up the wee things on Facebook there, Paddy Power. For the size of Ireland, isn't it just mind blowing that we're producing, co-drivers, drivers, and never mind then, backroom, like engineers, mechanics, the Paddy Power is running through World Rally, never mind the Irish Rally, and it's just, we're punching well above our weight, and it's fantastic to see. And as for Craig and Paul going to M Sport next year, it's mind blowing. It really is, and nobody deserves it more. In fairness, the guy has worked hard. He has put a lot of effort into his rallying, and it's great to see it finally paying off for him.
And Kev, just to finish up, as you saw maybe yourself in the last couple of days, to see national news outlets kind of taking this story and running with it and making something of it can only be a positive thing. And you'd hope over the next couple of years it'll drive things on even further.
Oh, here, absolutely. We're all quite happy to give out about RTE or Today FM or whatever, But that was leading, it was leading the sports bulletins yesterday morning. Unbelievable, great to see. Long may it continue, I suppose. So.
Absolutely. And in the next couple of weeks, are we going to see you down around Wexford or anything like that? Any plans?
No,
I know it's quite a trek for you.
It's a bit of a trek. No, hopefully then make the trip up to the Tour of Spearns now in a couple of weeks, and then Deja Vu Donna coming up then. Couple of weeks then after, or the following week after that. So that's my plans for the next few weeks anyway.
Good stuff. Actually, I must check there again, but the Tour de Spearns, is that a week after Wexford or is it the same weekend?
It is the same weekend, I think. Yeah,
I was thinking it was the same weekend.
Not next weekend, but the following weekend, the 24th, no, 17th, 16th, 17th.
Yeah, I wonder, are we going to see guys out 2 days in a row? We saw McCourt do it down in Cork. I know it was international and Bushwhack the day before, but who knows? Wouldn't it be great to have the money to do it?
Oh, here. We can't but dream.
One day. Well, sure, look, we did our own little recce up there in Donegal a few months ago, so
That's
I don't know.
yeah.
I can only step in and navigate for you again, but
I don't know where it could be classed as illegal, Ricky, or not.
It's only illegal if you get kosher.
Yeah, well, that's true. True.
Listen, Kevin,
True.
a pleasure as always, lad. Thanks for coming on, and we'll chat to you soon. All right.
Okay, my man. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Yes, indeed. That's where we leave it on this edition of the Irish Rally podcast. And we do appreciate you tuning in as always. Don't forget, you can subscribe and all that crack on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But in terms of YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc., don't be afraid to do that because you will get notified instantaneously. Thanks to our sponsors. And as we said, we are on the lookout for a bit of sponsorship. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can do so. IrishRallyPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again. Chat to you soon.